So if you're part of a team and your wish, your desire, your dream is for power to be shared within that team, how can it be possible with a range of different voices for power to be shared? How can decisions be made collectively? How do you make consent-based decisions in a small team? This is what we're going to explore in this video. Just to also let you know, there's a bit of work going on outside, so you may hear a bit of background noise in this video at the same time. A little bit of background in my own journey in exploring consent-based decision-making, collective decision-making and shared power. I've had many years of experience working in grassroots change-making, where I've been exploring and learned about consensus decision-making, applying it on the ground in real life situations, and experimenting, working with it to see what happens if this is adjusted in this way, or this seems like this may be better and maybe I'll try that. So I've had quite a lot of learning, practical learning on the ground. I also then came across something called sociocracy, which works with distributed or shared power and consent-based decision-making. And that really helped to crystallize some of the things I was thinking about and bring them into a form that added to the practical, how it could be used practically for me. So I've appreciated the inclusion of sociocracy in my own journey, and I'm going to be drawing on aspects of sociocracy as I talk about consent-based decision-making for your team. So firstly, what I want to touch on is, when would we make consent-based decision-making? Surely we're not going to have the whole team there for every single decision, and we'll want consent for every single decision that is made within that team. So there is a frame for this, whereby consent-based decisions would be for decisions that are structural, that exist over a period of time. Not for one-off decisions, but for decisions that are policy decisions or structural decisions that exist over a period of time, that provide a frame within which the team can do its work. Okay, so that's one way of looking at when policy decisions, or when, consent-based decision-making would come in. And I'll crystallize that with a few examples to help you understand. One example might be the team wants a role to be filled, a role that would exist for a period of time. And so because that role is a structure within the team, it's going to be there for a period of time, we can call it a structural decision or a policy decision. So we'd look at consent for that particular decision. What about if a intentional community is looking for a site where they may want to form, a geographical site, a location? That's a long-term decision, it's going to last. So that would require consent in the context and the approach we're talking about. Another might be in the workplace. If we're going to decide on a fixed lunch break time, how long that time would be within that team, we could consider that also, because we're making the decision in a way where we're saying this is how long lunch is going to be, not as a one-off but ongoing. That too can be seen as a policy decision, as a structural decision, and so would, in the way where I'm sharing this, that would be a consent-based decision to be made. And just in case you're a little confused, what is consent-based decision-making? Very simple terms, I'll give two ideas that will help to clarify what I mean by consent-based decision-making. On the one hand, it can be seen that all the team members have the authority to object to any proposal. Okay, so we can only really have consent if we have the power to object. Okay, if we don't have the power to object, then, then consent doesn't really exist, because something can happen even if we objected to it. So consent means the absence of objection. And in sociocracy, there's a mantra: it doesn't have to be a perfect decision. That will be very hard, perfect for everyone. We're looking at this mantra: good enough for now, safe enough to try, that we're willing to try it and then evaluate it later. Maybe we can revisit how good it was. And the opportunity is there to make adjustments or to completely change that decision if needed. So the absence of objection, and good enough for now, safe enough to try. So how does a team make decisions by consent? What happens in consent-based decision making? I'm not going to go into all the micro details here, but I am going to share some of the key principles, some of the key steps for consent-based decision making in a team. One of the key principles for consent-based decision making is that we want to harvest, we've got a number of team members, we want to harvest the creativity, the group intelligence, so we get the best ideas from within the team. And so we want it to be a participative process where the team members participate in creating the proposal together and can then decide on whether they consent to that proposal. And here's a way that it can happen. There's more than one way, but here's one way that you might like to consider. You have a question to begin with. A question, let's take the two examples earlier, or two of the examples earlier, one of which was you're in a workplace. How long should lunch break be set at? Okay, how long should lunch break be set at? Or you're wanting to start an intentional community with a group of people. Where should it be? Where do we want it to geographically be? Where would its location be? So you have one of these questions as an example, and you'd invite the team members to come up with considerations. They see things that need to be considered to address that question. So we can call it considerations or different aspects to the question. And hearing all the ideas, you'll get a range of different considerations that are important from within the team. Considerations that need to be looked at, to need to be responded to. And so these considerations then they invite ideas for solutions. So there are a range of ideas that can then be invited from within the team to respond to those considerations. And all those different ideas can be harvested. They may even be conflicting or seemingly conflicting ideas, that's fine. All we're doing right now is harvesting different possibilities. And then one or two people would go off and they would come out with a proposal from that range of ideas. They would come out with a proposal that responds to the different considerations in a way that they believe the rest of the team are highly likely to consent to. And maybe they will. Maybe the rest of the team will hear this proposal that one or two people have brought forward, and maybe the team will say, yeah, great, we consent. No objection. Good enough for now, safe enough to try. That's wonderful. It's also possible that they may have some queries or come out with an objection. And that objection, we can rewire our nervous system about what an objection is. We can see it as a potential gift, that someone is seeing something that other people are not within the team. And so it's not just the case of saying, I object, it's a case of sharing why. Why am I objecting? What am I noticing that I think may be harmful to the group, or may actually not help the group move forward? And I can share that, and the team can hear that, and then maybe there's a way to integrate that objection into the proposal, so the proposal can be tweaked to respond to that objection, to take that objection into account. And so the proposal is therefore improved and everybody wins. And so we've got consent-based decision making that has now been completed pretty much. There's one step we still need, which is we need to set a term, because it may, it's good enough for now, it's safe enough to try. And when we try it, we want to evaluate after a period of time how we've experienced the implementation of that decision. So we give a term usually, it could be 3 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. We give a term and we know we're going to review it, we're going to evaluate it, so we can continue to get feedback and to improve as a team. So let's look at some of the qualities then of consent-based decision making. Consent-based decision making is not about making a perfect decision. It's about good enough for now, safe enough to try. It's not about needs being compromised either. It's about needs being taken seriously and about attempting to hold the different needs and bringing a proposal that responds to the holding and the valuing of those different needs at the same time. Consent-based decision making is not about a decision being imposed by anyone. It's about participative decision making. It's not about each person thinking about just themselves, but about thinking about the group or the team or the community as a whole. And as a result, we wouldn't be fixated on what we want, what we prefer beyond anything else. We would expand that, allow others into that process, and think about what is our zone of acceptance. And consent-based decision making, it will take more time than a decision that is imposed by a boss, but it will, so while that time is longer, it is likely, consent-based decision making is likely to respond much more fully to the different needs within the group, because everyone's voice is included, is part of the process. And when we have this participative decision making, when our voice is included, there's a sense of belonging. So this is another quality. There's a sense of belonging, a sense of feeling part of the team, and we're cultivating the qualities of community. So these are some of the qualities of consent-based decision making that you could use potentially in your team. And so this is a question that I want to put to you, or a number of questions. Are you already using consent-based decision making? If so, I'd love to know what your experience is. Please put it in the comments below. Or do you think that any of these principles, if you're not using consent-based decision making, that they could be useful for your team? Let me know. I'd love to hear in the comments. Or do you feel that it could be very challenging to use in your team? That's possible. I'd love to know if you think that and why that is. And if you appreciated this video, I'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up, a like, and if you'd like more insights on individual and collective liberation, then please do follow, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.